Good morning. Today we discuss the next topic from the chapter Basic Elements of Spectroscopy. In the previous session, we have discussed the absorption spectrometer and emission spectrometer. In the discussion of absorption spectrometer and emission spectrometer, we have mentioned about the noise. Noise means the unwanted signal arises from the electric or electronic circuits. It will interfere with the signal. We know that in modern spectrometers, the signal is produced by the detector is amplified by electronic amplifiers. So, random fluctuation due to the electronic signal, that is called as noise, will appear in the spectrum. The ability of a spectrometer to make accurate measurement depend on the quality of the signal obtained from the detector and the subsequent electric circuits. If a spectrometer is very sensitive or it is very good, then it must have the ability to avoid or to reduce the noise. The signal to noise ratio provide a measure of the signal quality. Or it can be said that the signal to noise ratio it is a measure of quality of a spectrometer. The signal to noise ratio compare the average power available in the signal to the average power contained in the noise. Or we can write it as signal to noise ratio is the signal divided by the noise. both quantities being given in the same unit. Therefore, the real peak in the spectra will easily be detected if the intensity is large in comparison to noise. For a very good spectrum, the power of the signal must be greater than the power of the signal in several times. Okay. And the sensitivity of the detection of the actual peak is maximum when the signal to noise ratio is of the order 3 to 4. When the signal to noise ratio is in between 3 to 4, the sensitivity of detection of the actual peak must be maximum. Now we discuss another parameter that determine the quality of the spectrometer, or it is the resolving power, resolution or resolving power. So it is the efficiency of a spectrometer in separating the band in a spectra, that is called resolving power or its resolution. The efficiency of a spectrometer in separating the bands, separating the frequencies. If the resolving power of an instrument is high, it can separate the different frequencies very well. And the resolving power actually depend upon the exit slit width. We know that the molecular absorption take place over a spread of frequencies, or it covering a band of frequency. Okay. Then consider this figure. Here, a two spread of frequency which lying very close to each other. Look at here. This is the first. This is the first one, and this is the second band. Okay, but here it is very close to each other. Here our aim is to separate these two. Okay, here we consider the slit width is higher than that of the frequency spread. Here we take the slit width is larger than the frequency line width. Okay, if the width of the slit is very small, then it is able to separate. But if it is very, very small, then the energy we get out of the slit must be very low. So there must be a compromise between this width of the slit and the frequency spread or the frequency line width. Here in this situation, the both peaks of the spectra steadily passes through the slit and reaches the detector. Okay, and here we consider the different cases. Okay, let it be A, B, C, D. Okay, and in the first case, look at the figure, and here the dotted lines or the dotted curve represent the absorption due to the each line separately, and the full line their combined absorption. Okay, this is the first frequency. Okay, and it is the second. Then as it is very close to each other, we get this frequency spread like this. And now here we consider this here we moving the twin absorption. Here we moving the frequency spectra or the peaks steadily to the left so that they pass across the exit slit into the detector. Okay, and here it is very far from the slit, and so the 0% of absorption take place. And in the second case, it is just reaching at the exit slit. It is approximately 5% of absorption. And in the third case, it almostly cover the slit. It is about 90%. And in the fourth case, it is going to leave the exit slit, but it is also covers a major portion. Okay. And here in the third and fourth case, the absorption is 90%. And if you plotting the different cases, like this, we will get at the point A, it is 0% absorption, and at B, a 5%, and in C, 90%, and in D, also 90%. Okay. And in this case, we said that there must be a compromise between the slit width and the frequency line width. So if we decrease the slit width so that it allows only one peak to pass through. Okay. Hence, a narrower slit result in better resolution, but it has a negative effect. Narrowing the width to improve resolution has a negative effect on the efficiency of the instrument. The narrow slit width allows less energy from the beam to reach the detector, and as a result, the strength of the signal will decrease. Thus, it is not possible to distinguish the signal from the noise. Okay. At certain value of slit width, the signal to noise ratio becomes less than 3 to 4. When we discussing about signal to noise ratio, we have said that to obtain the spectrum peak very well, the signal to noise ratio must be in between 3 to 4. Okay. So if we reduce this slit width, in some cases, the signal to noise ratio must be less than that of 3 to 4. Okay. So we have to make a compromise between the resolving power and signal to noise ratio. This, it is fixed at such a value where the signal to noise ratio is maintained. Next is the width of spectral transitions. Theoretically, the transition due to the absorption of photon occur between two exactly defined energy levels under the reference condition delta E is equal to h nu, or if the energy difference is equal to the energy difference, that is E2 minus E1 is equal to the energy of photon, or it is h nu, then the absorption may take place. Therefore, the absorption band should have no width at all. But in the actual spectrum, we have observed some width. Even with a very high resolving power spectrometer, it is not possible to get a widthless band, since there is a minimum width called natural bandwidth. Okay, that is inherent in any molecular or atomic transition. Ideally, we said that there is a single line, but practically it is not possible. We get a spread or some line width. Okay, this width arises because energy levels of molecular system are not precisely determined except in the ground level. Okay, if a system is in ground level, we can measure its energy precisely, but in the excited state, we cannot precisely measure the energy level. This occurs due to several factors such as collision broadening, Doppler broadening, and Heisenberg uncertainty principle, etc. The reason for width of spectral transition is collision broadening, Doppler broadening, and Heisenberg uncertainty principle, etc. We can discuss it one by one. First, we discuss collision broadening. Atoms and molecules in liquids and gases are in a continual motion and collide frequently with each other. Due to the random motion, there must be collision between atoms or atoms and molecules with the container walls. This collision causes some deformation in the energy levels of outermost electrons. It is due to this visible and ultraviolet spectral lines have width. So, due to collision broadening, the spectral line have width in the visible and ultraviolet regions. It may be recalled that in visible and ultraviolet regions, transition occur in outer electronic shells. The collisions can also affect the vibrational and rotational spectra, which explains the width of these spectral lines. And the molecular interactions are more severe in liquids than in gases. The gas phase spectra usually exhibit sharper lines than those of corresponding liquids, because the molecular interaction are more severe in liquids than gases. In the case of solids, the interactions are very less, thus we get sharp spectra. But solid spectral lines split into two or more components, showing the evidence of interactions. Next is the Doppler broadening. It is due to the Doppler effect. The particle show a Doppler shift, change in frequency. What is Doppler effect? If there is a relative moment, then there must be a frequency variation. Since the motion is random, the shift occurs in both lower and higher frequency regions. This results in the broadening of spectral lines. In general, collision broadening is dominant in liquid, whereas Doppler broadening dominates in gases. Next, we discuss the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. The energy level of an isolated stationary molecule or atom are not infinitely sharp due to the uncertainty principle of Heisenberg. Heisenberg uncertainty principle say that first one is we can't measure position and momentum simultaneously, and we can't measure the energy difference and time difference simultaneously. Okay. So, according to Heisenberg uncertainty principle, if a system exists in any energy state for a time of delta t second, the energy of that state will be uncertain to the extent delta E in the order of Planck's constant, or delta E in the delta T must be approximately equal to h. Thus, we see that the lowest energy state of a system is sharply defined, since the system will remain in the state for infinite time. As the lowest, we know that the lowest energy state is the stable state. So the atom may stay there for infinite time. So the value delta T, so the value delta E approximately is equal to 0. However, the lifetime of an excited electronic state is usually about 10 raised to minus 8 seconds. This leads to a frequency uncertainty about 10 raised to 8 Hertz. This apparently large uncertainty is small compared with the usual radiation frequency of such transition, 10 raised to 14 to 10 raised to 16 Hertz, and so the natural line width is said to be small. In fact, the apparent width of the electronic transition are far more dependent on collision and Doppler broadening than on energy uncertainties. On the other hand, an excited electron spin state may exist for some 10 raised to -7 second, which leads to a frequency uncertainty of some 10 raised to 7 hertz for a transition. Here it is 10 raised to -7 second. Next is the intensity of spectral transition. The intensity of the spectral transition depends on three. First is transition probability, and the second is population, and the third is concentration or path length of the sample. The intensity of the spectral transition, it depends on the transition probability. Okay, and it means the likelihood of a system in one state changing to another state. Next, the population, the number of atoms or molecules initially in a state from which the transition occur. If the population is high, the intensity must be high. And the third is the concentration of path length of the sample. It is the amount of material present giving rise to the spectrum. So I conclude here. This is the end of this chapter. Okay, thank you.